Hey, Section 4. Hope this video finds you all doing well. I just wanted to make a quick video about the case. I'm going to brighten that up. About the case. I first off want to apologize for some of the confusion. After going back and reading through some of the instructions and stuff, I totally agree. This could have been better orchestrated. And for those of you who were able to get the information out and do it at the right time, kudos to you. And for the rest of you, do not worry. This is not. I will try to avoid this happening again. They've been doing some work with the case studies. People seem to like them, but we want to make sure that everybody's on the same page, right? So that nobody feels rushed and hurried. And then, kind of to follow up with that, I certainly appreciate everyone working hard to get them done, maybe in a more protracted amount of time, feeling the constraints of perhaps other things that are going on in your life, because everybody seemed to get it done, really hop to it, and I appreciate that. We're just going to do a quick run through on the case, just so if there are people who have any questions, or they don't feel like they got good feedback. I tried to get to everyone. It was hard reading through all of those because everybody was doing a pretty decent job. There were these little things in between, but hopefully I tried to give you a couple of things to think about as to why some of you chose to do, or ask why you chose to do some of the things that you did. But this is just a quick review of the subjective case. So, contributing structures, for the most part, we were looking for that right shoulder to look for some of those referral patterns that we see with cardiac, GI, and pulmonary, so that you're thinking, at least initially, again, this is not something, we're not trying to diagnose these things. We're simply trying to say in our minds, okay, right shoulder, what are the referral patterns? Cardiac, GI, and pulmonary all seem to have similar referral patterns. So then I just need to be aware of that, right? So we just want you to be thinking in those terms, especially somebody who comes in direct access. And even though anybody, right, anybody, because you should always be screening for these things appropriately, but especially those who come in for direct access. Neck, cardiac, that problem number 3, neck, and also peripheral nerve, right? Be thinking about those. Obviously, radiation into the arm. And then wrist, that was mostly biomechanical, tendinopathy, peripheral nerve kinds of things. So less about that. But just the point of the case study, at least to tie in some of that stuff that we did with block 1, to draw in the referral patterns and to be thinking along those lines. SINS, wrong, my apologies, SINSS. Stability was really the only one that really held anybody up. Everybody seemed to really understand the symptoms, irritability, nature, staging, and stability, except for, I would argue that some people said that it was staying the same from a stability standpoint for the right shoulder, and I would argue that it was probably worsening, an increase in pain. One learner did say that they felt like the information wasn't as clear, and if you feel that was true or you were still confused, feel free to hit me with an email, and I'll do my best to explain it. We can call on a phone call, because I think SINs are really a great way for people to be thinking about patient problems, and we're going to learn and some of you probably already have because you've been reading this material, but irritability in the next set of literature in the Mishner article talks about irritability and the importance that irritability plays. So even taking out part of that from the SIN stuff is really is helpful, right? Irritability. We're constantly thinking how irritable this patient is. What do we do moving forward? What can they tolerate? Red flags, perhaps more questioning, right? That leading into that, there was questions about like night sweats, weight loss, the 5Ds, the 3Ns, loss of appetite. Those are the kind of things you should be thinking about in questioning for red flags. I don't think there was anything overt in the presentation, the subjective presentation, but when thinking about red flags with her background, some things to think about. Yellow flags, everyone seemed to really hone in on her stressors and possible depression, so that was very good. And then, lastly, the contraindications and precautions. Really, people outside of the irritability, everybody kind of honed in on the fact that this person was probably more than likely going to be well served in our care. Vigor of the examination. Obviously, everybody honed in on the irritability. There are some people who I thought were probably, and this is tough, right? So, granted, I get this. It just depends on in your mind what this person really looks like, because I think sometimes we go in thinking, wow, this person's going to be very acute, and you end up doing a whole bunch. And sometimes you end up going, oh, I should be able to do a whole bunch, and the person is really acute or has a lot of fear avoidance behaviors or has a lot of just fear of you moving them, right? Like they just can't let go. They're very guarded. So, there was some there was a little bit of debate in the responses about the vigor of the examination and the irritability, but for the most part, everybody honed in on the fact that this was a problem and that we needed to have our needed to be sensitive to this. And then throughout the examination, everybody seemed to gauge what they needed to do in their examination. Obviously, being sensitive to the subject's high irritability. Special tests. The only thing I pushed back on was maybe I wanted to just see some people bring in some of the information from the Hegedus article, talking about clustering of shoulder tests and how that would look. So I did say in a couple of people's, in a couple of my responses, could you show me what Hegedus would have done from the readings from the first block. Upper limb tension test, everybody, so there was this kind of general consensus that we needed to understand upper limb tension testing for this patient. Most people did A, so the generalized median nerve upper limb tension test, and a few people left out the 2B. I think the namings of these things are totally ridiculous. With more radial nerve, and certainly if we're thinking deeper veins, if we're thinking tensinovitis, and we're trying to rule out that versus a peripheral nerve irritation of the radial nerve. So I would be thinking, and that one, I don't have really a ton of issues doing that with her. She might not like a depressed shoulder, but I can't imagine you putting her in that position and then slowly abducting her arm, that she would, that would be a huge deal. I actually think that would probably be less irritable than median, and I could be totally wrong, than the median nerve, but that was just my take, and I pushed back a little bit on some people on that, or asked at least, and inquired about that. Okay, so that was it. So, as a general rule, I hope, excuse me, as a general rule, I thought everybody did a good job. Hopefully you liked that, outside of maybe feeling extra pressure to get it done, but like the exercise, right? I've incorporated that actually into a couple of CE courses that I teach, and people seem to enjoy the mental gymnastics, if you will, or the banter that can come about from, well, why did you do this, or I would do this, or why would we be doing that? And sometimes there's really no wrong answer, because you just don't know how that person in front of you is going to respond. So then it makes for interesting dialogue. So again, people did a good job. So block 2, shoulder impingement. I have already seen that some people are posting already. Get your posts up, and then we're going to get to discussing. I'm going to dig in later this afternoon. I'm looking forward to hearing all of your thoughts. I've really appreciated the interactions, and I'm really looking forward to hearing your thoughts on shoulder impingement, the continuum that is shoulder impingement, the treatments that kind of supplement shoulder impingement, and what we should be doing professionally with this topic. Because I'll tell you right now, it's a huge debate about where we should be going with this, because it's really just kind of it's an umbrella term that has a huge continuum, and we need a better classification system. So my 2 cents. Have a great Sunday, and we will all talk to you after this week's interactions. Take good care. Bye-bye.